Now he has to live with it. He bragged many times about the money he saved the taxpayers of Waterville. This went on for pretty much the entire time he was the mayor of Waterville, and he became known as the price chopper of Waterville, as a pun on Martin's being the price chopper, by the way. And that's another thing he saved. He did very well at Martin's as a manager, and of course, he also talked about cutting back on social services, but many of the employees of Martin's do receive social services because their incomes are not high enough to qualify for the things that they need. This is not just Paul LePage, this is across the board in the country. Many people have 40-hour-a-week jobs and get social services because their pay is low.
Right.
If you want people to go off social services, stop paying a living wage, which is well above the minimum wage, which people say is too much already. But let's go back to Paul LePage's record in Waterville. Now that I have a little first-hand information on, is I live next door to Waterville, and we travel to Waterville a lot for medical reasons. While he was bragging about the money he saved the taxpayers, Waterville, my wife had the chance to go to Waterville to bring my grandson for an appointment with the doctors. She didn't know where that hospital was. It was not the one we normally use, so she's busy looking for the streets, looking for the signs, and not looking down enough. She hits a pothole, gets a flat tire. Well, my grandson got out and helped to change a flat tire. And now they're just a little bit late for his appointment. And they get back in the car, she turns left, and now she's on the right road. She thinks, but she's still looking for the street signs, and she hits a second pothole. This time she gets a flat and a broken rim. But I think that anyone that's charged with maintaining an entity, which is in the case of the city of Waterville, as the mayor, it's his job to watch over to see that those things are done. But he would rather have saved a little money, lowered the taxes. Lowering taxes is not the ultimate goal of government. The ultimate goal of government is to provide service to its people. Remember, people first. People first, profit later.
What are your thoughts on that, Steve?
Well, I think we in America have defined needs far too generously. I think we all need a brand new 52-inch color TV. We all need a 2010 modern car. We all need a perfectly, pothole-free street everywhere we drive. We need so many things that we really don't need if you look at it that way. And if you want to look at it realistically, government, I disagree with our other guest, government is not here to provide all of our needs for us. Government is here to make sure that we keep ourselves safe from foreign invasion, safe from crazies who would murder us, and that's about it. We need to start getting back to what exactly do we need? Well, we need to start depending on each other. We need to start depending on our neighbor, our churches, our few foundations that are out there to help people that are genuinely in need. Big brother government is not to be there for every little so-called need that we've developed. And we have a marketing-based economy now that everything is a need. We have our needs created for us 24/7 by what we see on television. We need this drug so we can have better sex. We need this car because if we don't, we're not going to get the pretty girl because the other guy has a nicer car. I mean, we become so intensely materialistic in this country that our needs have been put to a level that government cannot possibly meet them. And if we're going to start expecting government to meet all the needs that we've created for all the people all the time, we're going to go broke. And we already have gone broke. And so we need to redefine exactly what a need is. We need to use the Constitution, in my opinion, as the basis for what it is that people can expect from government. And there's nothing in the Constitution about, everybody has a right to a 50-inch color TV. There's nothing in the Constitution about everyone has a right for health care. All right? It's because we don't let the markets do their job and distribute, goods and services according to, market forces, that government has stepped in to become the big brother, the nanny state, and we don't need that.
I agree. But you talk about the nanny state. Paul LePage, in the speech today, let me see, I wrote this down to make sure I got it right. He said that education is one of the most important things there is. He did say that. You were there, so you heard him say that.
Right.
And he said, it's important because we have to train our people. For what? To work for companies. But then later on, and he says, we don't want to be having too much of this social services and money going to pay for things. However, who pays for the training of these employees? Years ago, it was companies had apprenticeships. They paid for it. Now, we have KV Tech and colleges that are paid for by the state. So the state is training the workers for why don't these companies these profits that they make, and he said that again, profit's a good thing because you take the profit, roll it over and put it back into society. Why don't they take some of their profit and train the employees instead of making the state? The state is actually paying welfare to the companies.
Do you think that ties into regulations, where you said, and I think it was a great system, where you had an apprenticeship where you didn't make a lot of money, but the idea was they weren't paying you a lot of money, but you got the experience, and then maybe at the end of it, you hung your shingle out. You do it on your own, but nowadays it seems like, education is kind of another regulation. You have to have a 6-year degree to go screw in a light bulb instead of just being able to do an apprenticeship.
And nobody mind working for low wages as an apprentice for a short period of time. This is not going to be for the rest of their life. But they weren't paying $800 a month for health insurance either.
I would love to see more apprenticeships.
I would too.
What did you think about his 5-year of high school? So maybe you could get an associate's degree in high school or get some of your basic classes out of the way if you're going to take, say, a 4-year degree later.
As long as it doesn't turn them into charter schools, I like it.
I think I know what your thoughts are on charter schools. You want to talk
Well, my
about
biggest
it?
concern about charter schools, and I know that the traditional conservative views is that charter school good, public school bad, tuition credits or vouchers good, taxes from the citizens bad. But the scary thing to me about charter schools is the fact that you lose your school board, you lose your representation, you lose the public oversight of what goes on at taxpayer expense. Because make no mistake about it, these charter schools are still going to get taxpayer money. Okay, they're just going to eliminate the school board. And the charter school method or approach to education is founded in Soviet-style workforce training methodology. It's not liberal arts, classical education as it's been known in the United States prior to us fouling that up, say 30 or 40 years ago. It's not typical American education. We're trying to throw the baby out from the bathwater because the bathwater is dirty, and we're going to dump the baby on the floor and stab it to death. That's what charter schools that's what it basically represents. Taking a child from age kindergarten or pre-K, tracking them through, literally, by their social security number, as to what their talent is and what their career path ought to be before they hit junior high, for crying out loud. It's absolutely fascist. It will not work. It's failed everywhere it's been tried. It works great for a command Soviet economy before that collapses, but it will not work in a free market in America.
I saw that when I was in England. Some of the folks that were at the school that I was at, they told me, it was decided by, say, the 5th grade what track they were on.
Yeah.
And they were college, but...
Yeah, and understand, we're not talking about tracks in terms of, we're going to split kids up into ability groups so that they can move ahead together and have their needs mostly made. We're talking about tracking for careers at kindergarten or even, up to 3rd grade, and then you have no chance of breaking out of that mold.
Right, I was really surprised that kids didn't seem to have a problem with that, the way it kind of took me aback, that most of their classmates...
if you've been in the middle of something for 50 or 100 years, it's going to seem normal to you. That doesn't make it right.
I think another important aspect is you lose the local control.
That's the biggest aspect.
To me, that's the big factor. The
You're
local
right.
Control.
And I do have personal word from someone, a friend of mine, who visited with the governor on the phone yesterday morning, that he now understands that part of the charter school problem and will not permit charter schools that have no elected school board. So if he follows through on that,
that's good.
I hope he does that with privatizing prisons as well, because privatizing prisons, you're going to have the same problems. The private prisons are still going to take federal and state money. They're going to get paid by the taxpayer for housing the prisoners because the state is gonna pay them for doing it. They're gonna make money by farming these prisoners out to private businesses for very little money, $1 an hour or something, and the prisoners are gonna get 5 cents of that or something. No one should profit. No one should profit from someone's misfortune.
That seems to be the big point. So we've never had a private prison in Maine. Is that,
No,
is that right?
we never had them in this country until just a few short years ago.
So now all of a sudden someone has a financial gain to be made by locking someone up.
Yeah.
And it seems to me you would probably start seeing lobbyists for mandatory sentences and longer sentences.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a lot.
Just as, the longer you keep them in jail, the more money you can make off of them.
I know you've done several of your main social justice programs
Yeah.
on the prisons.
Yeah.
And I know one of the things that you pointed out, which is very true, that a lot of the people in there, maybe even half of them, haven't even been convicted of anything.
No, they're awaiting trial. They're awaiting trial, and yet they are being pepper sprayed. I mean, I know a lot of my liberal friends that say, well, the prisoners, they don't have any rights. Well, yes, they do. They have the rights of human beings. And one thing we should never forget is that we are human beings. And when we fail to treat another human being like a human being, we ourselves become dehumanized. We become less of a human ourselves. And this is where I find austerity, it's a fine thing. Don't waste. I was brought up in a very poor family too. I didn't live on Lisbon Street, but but I was brought up in a poor family, and we were taught you don't waste anything, but
Right.
you do need what you need.
Well, austerity is a scary word. The way you see it thrown around nowadays,
Yeah.
especially in Europe, it usually translates to starve the people and feed the bankers as well.
Yeah.
Austerity means.
Absolutely. You know, we agree on so many things here.
We do. I know the private prisons wasn't a big thing on the campaign trail. But you have any thoughts on that? 'Cause
Well, I
it's
haven't
been in
really studied the
papers
issue
quite a
very
bit.
much, but obviously I'd like to see it be able to save money wherever we can across the board, and of course that would also include prisons. But I think we have to be very careful when we're talking about a private entity coming in and handling what has been a public function with no oversight. I mean, to me, a public corporation being able to or a private corporation being able to do whatever they want to a prisoner, there's got to be oversight. There's got to be some sort of ombudsman in there to make sure that prisoners aren't being abused. There's got to be some oversight by the county sheriff of any prison facility within his county. That's our elected law enforcement person. If he has no oversight over a private prison within his borders, you're not going to see me supporting it.
Great. Well, I know the Constitution's come up a few times, and I want to show the viewers at home a clip now of Governor LePage on the campaign trail.
We have a Constitution, we have a Bill of Rights, and we got to live by it. And we're going to make these people, both in Washington and in the state of Maine, to embrace what the Founding Fathers gave us. And it still works. Their interpretation is changing what we were founded on and what we live by. And we need to stop them.
I've actually made a documentary a few years ago that Peter was in, and our focus was on the Constitution,
Yes, well.
what it really means, why it's important, how it's kind of at risk today. And Paul has talked a lot about the Constitution. I know a lot of people that have a high respect of the Constitution. That's one of the things that made him appeal to them. What are you hoping as far as, following the Constitution a little more that we'll see out of Governor LePage?
When Waterville Bridges was standing on the bridge and having large groups of people, well, large, 15, 20 people, it was Paul LePage that suggested that he got the city council to say that we should seek a permit to demonstrate. And, I don't know, we did it.
Right.
And so therefore, I totally disagree with him on that one. He started the ball on it, he backed off after a while, but he did do that and we did get a permit. However, when the town of Skowhegan demanded of the splinter group of the Waterville Bridges that they get a permit, the man that went up to speak for the rest of us refused to even apply for it. He says, no, keep your permit, we're not getting it. And we came back.
That's the
The
way you
week
do it.
later, we had little blue Constitution books put out by the American Civil Liberties Union, and we had them in our pocket. And if the cops came and said, we want to see your permit, we're going to pull out the Constitution.